Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as usual, let's go over Tesla. Let's go over the market. It is actually the final day of the week. The market is actually closed tomorrow, so that is something else to remember, I guess. Tomorrow the market is not open rather. So with that being said, however, Tesla looking like it is going to be ending the day actually pretty flat. I mean, only down 0.24% compared to the market's slight underperformance. Nothing absolutely major, but definitely a little bit of an underperformance, but it is putting us just barely above $185. So what does this mean and what has happened? So, Tesla definitely showing a tiny bit more weakness than I expected. I definitely wouldn't have been surprised if it actually did bounce off of yesterday's candle and didn't go really too much lower. It did go all the way down to pretty much 180 on the dot, give or take. Which is another pretty major area of, honestly, at this point, it feels like it's almost psychological support, and it's also just a crucial level of support as well. As you can see, from back here, we obviously had a rejection pretty much at 180. Over here, we had a lot of contention that was, support and resistance at 180, right? And now we're once again back to that level, which is why, I've always had this kind of rectangle box drawn. This whole area to me is a massive area of supply or demand, right? In this case, of course, that is going to be demand, or at least hopefully. And at the moment, it is proving to be the case, right? Every time we enter this box, there's a lot of fighting going on between the bulls and the bears. It's a pretty important area of contention, and we did come to the very bottom of it, but nonetheless still pretty much within this box. And we actually did end up getting a pretty decent bounce. The bulls, I would definitely argue, are victorious today in holding, what is another yet crucial area of support, which is, of course, that 180. And of course, if that breaks, well, we saw what happened over here when this candle, ended up doing it, and holding it. But then the next day, it did gap down a tiny bit, and then it came up, tried to hold it. And then the second it actually truly collapsed below this essentially 180 level, you can see the pain, and vice versa. You can see what happened when the candle finally closed above 180. And in this category, it gapped up and continued rocketing back up, right? So, it's a pretty important area as well. Now, of course, with all that being said and done, as we talked about yesterday, Tesla arguably, this trend up here, this line up here is just so, I don't know, something about it is just very weird, honestly. But the idea is, it's such a weird line. I really don't like this one up here, but whatever. The thing is, you can almost ignore this one because it's, in my opinion, not even relevant anymore. The main thing that you really cared about, with all due respect, is of course going to be this line right here that still remains, because this was the one that we were essentially bouncing off of and holding, if you will, as we were going upwards in this, upward trajectory from these lows over here back pretty much at $100, right? So as we came from here, we rallied up, came down here, bounced, came on it again, bounced, came here again, and honestly tried to bounce. It was actually pretty damn close. But as you can see, it obviously did not actually, didn't work out this time, unfortunately. So that's something else to consider. But nonetheless, all that being said, after Tesla did fall out of this, on this candle, arguably right here, but even more so the fall through yesterday, the downtrend, in my opinion, seems at this point almost inevitable. But like I said, pretty much exactly what we talked about yesterday, I still wouldn't be surprised if we get one more rally. And the market, definitely getting some pretty surprising. I mean, the market looked actually surprisingly, I don't know, like dominant, I guess. Like it really showed like it's not ready to go down, and the VIX is just, man, this thing we've been talking about the VIX showing a lot of weakness, and it's still showing a lot of weakness. It doesn't feel like it's ready to bounce yet, right? It's just extremely weak, which again is good for the markets if you're a bull, right? Because this will give the markets room to run, as you can see, for example, today, right? A pretty brutal day to start, but then just an absolute recovery throughout the whole day, the rest of the day, and the market actually ended up pretty okay green, especially considering how, it was initially red. So that's a pretty big W, in my opinion, for the market. Something absolutely to, sorry guys, something over here. Something to consider for sure. Now, Tesla, of course, unfortunately not getting as much of it as well. But, the thing that's unfortunate is that Tesla could not actually close above yesterday's close, right? So yesterday we closed pretty much right around here at 185-ish, right? And then we actually went back up to it. We did gap fill, which is good for the bears, actually. But we couldn't close above it, which, is a little bit of a sign of concern. Now, again, the fact that we are in this major area of potential demand, I actually do expect this to be, again, I still expect this vicinity that we are currently in to be an an area of potential consolidation, at least, if not a bounce, right? So worst case scenario, we'll do something like this around here. If not, at the very least, I think also it's possible to maybe rally up. It doesn't have to be exactly to 200, but maybe a little bit of a rally, maybe gap fill, 192, for instance, and then make our way down. But I do expect, at least for the downward pressure, to at the very least pause, to stop, at least for now. get some consolidation, if not an actual bounce, and then I do believe that we will continue this downward movement. I'd be very surprised if it's done. Let's just say that, right? Because again, the downward trend has officially broken, and when these downward trends finally, do break, similar to what we saw right here, you can see what happened, right? So we're pretty much, if you think about it, right, off of these candles right here, you can argue that we're essentially this kind of green candle right here, maybe this one, maybe this one. We're pretty much right around. We're kind of like in this area right here-ish, right? Where, similar concept, right? Tesla had a major fall, finally had some recovery, consolidation into a massive recovery, then consolidation, and then finally it broke, right? Pretty much the same thing we're seeing here, ladies and gentlemen, right? If you actually compare the two, right? It's extremely identical. And obviously, as you can see, this is where we are right now. Very similar concept, right? So that's kind of more or less what I am currently envisioning. Again, it doesn't mean it has to play out the exact same way, right? Maybe it'll rise up even higher. Maybe it'll fall right away. Like nothing has to happen exactly, but history often rhymes in the market. And this, I think we can argue, is quite the rhyme. To be fair, this is quite the rhyme. I mean, it looks pretty damn similar to this situation right here, just obviously slightly smaller-ish, but the idea, the principle is extremely similar. So that's kind of the main thing I'm currently looking at, ladies and gentlemen. And as I'm sure you don't need me to tell you what happened afterwards. Again, I don't think we'll go this far down. I think this part right here, I do think this is overextending. I don't think we'll go down that far, but I do expect a move, something like this over here that happened, to happen once again for Tesla. So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. So if Tesla does come down to my price target, at the very least, from today's close, at the very least, I expect a move down at least another like 10%. Minimum, like absolute bare minimum, I think 10%. But my main price target, where I personally expect Tesla, and hopefully hope Tesla comes down to, is at least another 20% drop, right? About another 20% drop from here is where I think Tesla will come down to. And I really would not be surprised if it does come down to this area. Potentially lower, of course, we will revisit it if and when, of course, it does come down to this area. But again, I am personally eyeballing this general area as my like main area where I want to go extremely aggressive. Honestly, even if we come down to around here, I will start being pretty aggressive, but especially here, that's where I really want to go a lot more aggressive for Tesla. Again, at least that's about a 20% move down, and that's from today's close, right? If you talk about it from the close from up here, back right before the deliveries were announced, and if it comes down here, people will be saying that Tesla has dropped about 30% since the delivery, since record deliveries, which it is a record delivery, but of course, not exceptionally convincing, let's just say that. So keep that in mind, guys. That's kind of the main thing I'm looking at. And of course, if you're someone that's holding options, bought options, the fact that tomorrow the market is closed is of course not very good. But I have a phone call coming, so I have to go and take this. I don't know what it is, but that's kind of the gist of what I am seeing, ladies and gentlemen. So let me know what you think down below if you enjoyed the video. Actually, you know what? This is some... I should decline it. It's one of those numbers that are just coming from, I don't even know where, man. It's so many spam callers lately. Anyway. But that's, regardless, that is kind of the main thing I'm looking at, right? Before we end the video, I do want to look at major things here. Indicators, we have the 21 EMA, which we're, of course, still well below that now. The Bollinger Band, right? Definitely looking like it's curling, so especially if we start consolidating here, this thing is really going to curl, and the move is really going to be quite substantial once it uncurls, and the explosion, if you will, actually does happen. The 100-day moving average is waiting for us below, but we are below below us currently. But the 50-day moving average is above us, and we are below it. So keep that in mind. And of course, we're below the 10-day moving average. So all in all, ladies and gentlemen, Tesla definitely looking more bearish than bullish. However, with that being said, I do expect the drop to essentially at least pause for now. Whether it's consolidation, whether it's a bounce, I do expect a pause in the drop for now. But once this 180 also breaks, which is the next major level to consider, I do think the drop will, of course, continue. But that is essentially the main thing I am looking at and looking for. So let me know what you think down below. Hope you have a great long weekend, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Peace.